for being here at such an early time. I'm really honored to be invited by Isabella to host this morning's session. Well, I look at the agenda. I was a little bit worried because the meeting starts quite early. According to my experience, maybe we'll only have half of the attendance. But today, I was surprised. Now it's 8:55, a quarter to 9, and most of the seats are taken. So I want to thank you for being here so early. Well, I think this meeting can meet your demand because the industry over the past year had a lot of changes. We work closely with a lot of clients in China, and a lot of clients told that last year was a major challenge. They used to have double-digit growth, but last year, no growth or very slow growth. I think if we look at traditional marketing, one key driver for growth is innovation. So we need to think how can we use innovation to drive consumption. Of course, there are other ways of marketing, promotion, but they are only for the short term. In the long run, we need innovation. So in the beginning, I want to talk to you about the fast-moving consumer goods market in China, the trends, the status quo, etc. Well, this is the topic of my presentation, the challenges and opportunities of food and beverage market in China. I attended a lot of conferences, and a lot of those conferences were talking about opportunities and challenges and Internet Plus. Well, food and beverage is consumed on a daily basis. Are we going to find the opportunities and the challenges? I hope my presentation will provide you with some answers. This is methodology of Kantar Worldpanel. Families or households, we asked them to scan the barcode of the product they bought. In that way, we will know their consumption behaviors. The 40,000 households are from 5-tier cities, from Tier 1 to Tier 5, representing different purchasing powers. And we also asked consumers to tell us their own behavior of purchasing, of consumption. Today, we only have one screen, so we don't have another screen to show you the English slide. But if you need English copy, I'm willing to share with you.
Screen, we can only show one Chinese presentation. But if you need an English copy, you can leave me a business card and I can provide you a copy afterwards. Okay? Thank you very much.
Has become successful, what has not? Third, e-commerce is a very hot topic. So I also want to talk to you about opportunities brought about by e-commerce and how can we promote innovation through the e-commerce channel. Well, this slide is very straightforward. It both in Chinese and in English. This is the trend for FMCG in China. It was only 4.3%, so the challenge was really big.
Consumer behaviors rapidly, and the lower tier cities are becoming major targets for businesses. Currently, there are many consumers that are interested in upgrading their spending, meaning that they are interested in buying better quality and higher priced products. And if producers can take this opportunity, they are going to have more opportunities of growth. I'd like to show you a few figures about Chinese mobile internet, but they all show that the Chinese consumers have already embraced mobile internet. We discovered that in a research, when we look at the fifth tier cities in China, mainly prefecture or town level cities, in 2014, the penetration, in 2012, the penetration rate of mobile phones was 73%, while in the same period, in the end of 2014, the penetration rate had increased to over 90%. This means that mobile phones have become a very popular way of communication. And currently, if we can use mobile phones, mobile marketing to communicate with consumers, it is going to be very successful to reach out to the mass market, especially people in counties and township level cities. In 2014, the growth of FMCG was 5.4%, but the contribution of different tier cities is different. For example, the tier 1 city is very different from tier 3, 4, 5. The combined contribution of tier 1 and tier 2 is 13%, while the combined contribution of tier 3, 4, 5 is 86%. Now, if you look at tier 3 cities, they contribute 46% of the growth, while the population only accounts for around 35% of the total population. This means that tier 3 cities are leading the way in market growth. Internet purchasing has become a way of life. A few figures I would like to share with you are the following. Now, we have been constantly watching consumer behavior on the internet and their purchasing behavior for FMCG. In 2012, in China, for tier 1 to tier 5 cities, only 26% of households would purchase FMCG online, but the number increased to 36% in 2014. The figure for the first quarter is as high as 37%. And I'm not talking about tier 1 cities only, but tier 1 to tier 5 cities. At the same time, we can see that in many categories, especially new and emerging categories, e-commerce sites are doing very well. They're growing exponentially. Now, I would like to show you a few categories where the annual growth is higher than 80%, this is very surprising because we can see that the cheese sector is growing very rapidly. It needs to have cold chain transportation, but last year the e-commerce business in cheese grew by 300%. This shows a big demand in China for cheese products. And for cheese products, in fact, physical retailers find it difficult to sell cheese. You have to have refrigerator to be able to sell cheese. You can't sell them in small grocery stores, but e-commerce sites have this natural advantage to meet the requirements, high requirements for storage and transportation. Another important sector is alcoholic drinks. The growth rate was over 110%. As e-commerce sites continue to develop, if we look at China as a whole, then the result can be too simplistic. So let's break down the cities in China into different tiers. And the x-axis is the average household expenditure online, while the y-axis is the internet purchase penetration rate. We can see that for major cities such as Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, the penetration rate is very high, and over 50% of households are buying FMCG online, and they would spend around 1,000 yuan. But for counties, you can see that the penetration rate is still relatively low and the average expenditure is also low. For township level cities and capital cities, we can see that their development is relatively mature and capital cities are performing better than township level cities, but the difference is not that big. In these cities, e-commerce sites are doing away with a lot of intermediaries and services become more and more unified. So no matter where you are, you may be in Fuzhou or in Xiamen, or you may live in a township level city, but consumer behavior in all these places is relatively the same. If you look at supermarkets, then the consumer behavior is very different from city to city. But for e-commerce sites such as Tmall, JD.com, they would cover 500 to 600 cities and counties, and consumer behavior in these places looks very similar. And that is a good opportunity for businesses, manufacturers, and food companies. I talked about the trend that people are interested in buying higher quality products with higher prices. Now, this chart looks at the number of consumers, the frequency of purchase, the size of their shopping cart, and the average price. You can see that the average price keeps increasing. However, the shopping frequency sees negative growth, meaning that consumers like to make fewer and fewer visits to stores. That is not something that we should worry about, because this shows that Chinese consumers are more and more similar to consumers in developed countries. They do not shop FMCG very often. They can shop FMCG once or twice a week. And this shows that the Chinese consumers' behavior is converging with the consumer behavior in developed countries. The average the average price is continuing to increase. And if you compare food and beverage with personal care, you can see that the price increase in the food and beverage sector is more prominent. Consumers are willing to spend more on what they eat and what they drink. What are the drivers of growth? What are the categories that drive growth? Apart from food and beverage, we see a number of other sectors. And you can see last year the CPI was lower than 2%. However, we see a number of categories last year that had seen much faster growth. One example would be the dairy sector. People are very safety and health conscious and are willing to pay more for good milk or yogurt products. What's more, bottled water seeing a growth rate of 10% last year, and that is mostly driven by high-end water brands that entered the Chinese market in 2014. That's why we saw a marked growth in the market in 2014. There are a number of categories that saw a decrease in their prices. An example would be foreign branded alcoholic drinks. Because of the anti-graft campaigns, consumers have stopped buying so many foreign branded expensive alcohols, and we do see a decrease of price for oil, cooking oil. Because of the anti-graft campaign, the government agencies have stopped giving out cooking oils to their employees, and this has led to lowering of prices of cooking oil. Now, if you look at different brands in 2014, we would launch a brand footprint rank, and we would look at CRP. The indicator would include brand penetration as well as purchasing frequency, and we would look at the consumer contact index. And on this chart that shows the 2014 consumer contact, we could see the top 14 brands and we put Hong Kong and Taiwan brands in China brands because we need to be politically correct. And there are 3 brands that would be purchased over 10 billion times every year. They are Master Kong, Yili, and Manio. And the rest of the major brands are mostly food brands. Consumers tend to buy them very frequently. We can see that these brands are connected to our day-to-day life. Now, I just show you the top 10 brands in terms of the contact numbers, but this is a chart of the highest growing brands. And on this ranking, we can see that of the 10 brands, there are 6 brands that are domestic brands. And last year, the fastest growing brand is owned by Danone Group, and it is Maison. The annual growth rate was over 20% for Maison in 2014. And of the 10 brands, 6 are domestic brands. This shows that Chinese brands, in competing with foreign brands on connection with consumers, have become more and more competitive. I talked about 5 changes in the market, and what are the implications for brands? If county-level cities see a large population with smartphones, then if we want to reach these clients, we shall rely on smartphones or other digital media instead of television. We shall put more budget on ads on digital media. E-commerce has become a very common tool of purchasing, and companies need to have their e-commerce strategy. If now e-commerce sites are not your major clients, then you need to rethink your strategy. You need to think about starting to work with e-commerce sites more closely. What's more, we are seeing that the process of this intermediarization is becoming more and more common, and the channel is becoming more and more flat. Before, we would have tier 1 distributor, tier 2 distributor, and tier 3 distributor before products can reach consumers. But now, companies are very closely connected directly to consumers, and in this way, brands can win consumers at lower tier cities at a faster pace. What's more, in terms of product innovation, we need to take the full advantage of consumers' needs for higher quality products. If we are not able to launch premium products that are in line with consumers' lifestyle, then it is very difficult for us to continue to be successful in the future. We need to look at new ways of marketing, especially new ways of internet marketing created by Chinese brands. That is an overview of the market development and growth. And the next part of my presentation is about innovation. Last year, we had a look at innovation in the market, and I would like to share with you our research results to see which kind of products would be very successful in the innovation arena. First of all, I would like to share with you a very interesting question. So if I launch 100 products in the Chinese market, what do you think the success rate is? Do you have an answer in mind?
Bridget, do you have any point of view? 20. Okay, thank you.
Any answers? Ling?
It's a quite big contrast, okay? 2% or 20%.
You may want to know what is my answer to this question, and you might want to know what is the criteria for success. You will have different criteria to determine whether a brand or product is successful in the market. I would like to share with you there are practical criteria. First, criteria 1, it has to have a large sales volume. If it only leads to like 10 million revenue, that is not considered successful. Second, it needs to contribute to the overall growth of the company. So when we look at successful products, we're not talking about revolutionary products that would change people's life, but we would look at products that are selling very well in the market, that are popular in the market, and that is something CEO and senior management is very interested in. And we'll also see whether the sales could bring incremental sales, so whether it could help us to grow our sales from, let's say, 100 to 120. We did a study based on many product categories in mature market and emerging market. And we also traced products launched in the Chinese market in the past 3 years. I'd like to give you 3 figures to start with. The first figure is 45%, the second 19%, and the third 4%. In the interest of time, I would be very straightforward and tell you 45 would be 45 of products are still on supermarket shelves after 3 years of launch. So if we have 100 products launched this year, 3 years later, there are only going to be 45 products that can be found on the on the shelves in stores. So if a new product cannot live longer than 3 years, you cannot say this is a successful product. Now the second figure, 19%. Of all the products that we studied,
presentation before.
19% of products achieved high incremental sales. Let's just say if the original sales is 100, and with the launch of the new product, the sales increased to 130 or 150. And the next figure is very in line with what Linz is going to talk about. In the Chinese market, of the categories that we have studied, only 5% of products have achieved both high sales volume as well as high incremental sales growth. That is why, in a strict sense, if you launch 100 products, only 4 products could achieve high growth and high incremental increase of sales. This is very difficult because every year companies spend a lot of time, energy, and resources on launching new products, but only 4% of these products could achieve high sales and high incremental growth. What are the reasons behind these figures? Now I would need some additional figures to explain to you. Now the first figure is 1.5%, the second is 15 million. 1.5% would be the average penetration rate of a new product after 1 year on the market, and the sales volume would reach 15 million. Now the next figure is 31%. 31% would be on average for a new product. 2/3 of consumers are people that are existing consumers, while only 31% of the consumers are new consumers. And the incremental growth on average is 11.8 million. And the growth that new product contributes to their brand is 2.7% on average. These figures could be very important reference for you when you decide to launch a new product. You will know what kind of targets you will set for your company.
In the process of developing new products, I think that this is a long and highly complicated process. And so that involves our time and also our efforts and also our money. And Of course, we invest even more in the product launching and the production process. But if we invest more in the early stage, that is the development of the products. That is, if we make correct critical decisions at the early stage, we will save more money in the future. And for example, early stage, like the initial market assessment, concept screening, and also the initial technology screening and market research, if we invest more time and also the energy in these stages, we will save more money in the future. How to achieve higher than net incremental sales? Through innovation. Because that if innovation fails to contribute to the incremental growth, the innovation fails. That means that innovation innovates for the purpose of innovation. So innovation serves the sole purpose of driving the net incremental growth. And to realize that, we have to achieve the following conditions. The first one is the new products need to bring in the first-time consumers. Secondly, they can help promote the growth of the category. Secondly, they are able to cover some of the new occasions failed to be covered by the parent brand. Or fourthly, that the new products will not be this direct substitute to the original product or the parent brand. And in addition, that the new products need to make sure that they serve the purpose of differentiation. But actually, if we look at the new products launched in the market, we fail to see a lot of success cases. Now let's look at one case, Snaker. Snaker 20 gram. And so normally that its size is 50 gram. And in the past few years, Snickers started to introduce a smaller pack that is 20 gram. So this is a new product. And this new product targets the traditional channels and also tier 3 to tier 5 cities. And it's priced at 1.5 RMB yuan. The kids in the rural area can afford the Snickers 20 gram. This is a smaller pack. And so from the sales of this new product, we see that 1 year after the launch, 51% of this new product are the first-time consumers of this brand, Snickers. And so this smaller pack is a successful innovation because it's able to bring in new consumers. Now let's look at another case. That is Schweppes. It's widely seen in the supermarkets. 1 year after its launch in the China market, that it has achieved the penetration rate of 2.2%, much higher than the average, and has exceeded 40 million sales. And this the new product of Schweppes and has brought in the 99% of the first-time users. And this brand was acquired by Coca-Cola, and then it's repositioned through its new packaging. And on the packaging, that its vitamin C message has been emphasized. So this new product has crossed the category boundaries, and the topic for this presentation is about cross-boundary. So this is a successful case about a cross-boundary, and it has blurred the boundary between, for example, the founder and also the functional drink. And so we can see that 3% of its sales came from the founder, and 10% of the sales came from the functional beverage. We can see similar cases from the electronic products. The Samsung's Note has actually crossed the boundary between the mobile phones and the tablet. To achieve the net incremental sales, the new products should be able to create new use occasions. And here I would like to share with you one case, that is air cushion BB cream. It's called a BB cushion, and it's widely seen in the TV series from South Korea. And actually that these BB cushions serves a new occasion, and for example, for those wider occasions, and its penetration rate in the South Korean market has increased from 13% in 2012 to 23% in 2013, and it is also a successful product in the China market. We can also see other success cases. The Sensodyne. So this is a toothpaste brand of GSK. GSK is a strong and credible brand in the pharmaceutical industry. And so the GSK is a powerful parent brand, and so it has developed some sub-brands. And Sensodyne has become one of the strong sub-brands. And each of its sub-brands has extended the strength of the parent brand. And we can see that the Sensodyne has contributed to the net incremental growth of the parent brand. We know that only 4% of the new products launched to the market have been successful. And so this means that this is a low success rate among the new products. Why? So many new products fail. And this is the research done in the overseas market, and we can see that the top one reason is insufficient market analysis. That is, the new product is not well studied before it's launched to the market. Another reason that the new product fails to contribute to the net incremental growth is that this new product is not differentiated from the parent brand, or this may be because that investment in this new product or the new brand is not sufficient to support its differentiation from the parent brand. Another reason is that this new product may not be easily spotted by the consumers because it's not easily identified through its packaging. Oreo is a highly respected brand in the China market, and it has been successful in the China market over the past few years. And this is a slide about the new product pipeline of Oreo. And it takes great efforts to develop new products in the market. It's not as simple as that repackaging the old taste and use it as a new product in the market. To launch the new taste and also the new package, that we have to make sure that the new products will contribute to higher net the incremental growth. For a successful brand like Oreo, its new product contributes lower the incremental sales growth. So this means that it's increasingly challenging to create the higher net incremental sales growth in the China market. As I mentioned, that it's important to invest sufficiently to support the launching of the new products. Sometimes for those new products, we feel it reluctant to invest heavily to support its launching because this new product may be only the extended product line of the original brand. And so we don't want to invest more heavily into this new product. And for example, that the ad spend on the new product may be much less than the investment than the original brand or the parent brand. But for the new product to be widely recognized by the market, we have to make sufficient investment in its advertisement in order for this brand to be well recognized by the market. We have seen a lot of new juice beverages in the stores and supermarkets. So the shelves are crowded with a large number of the juice beverage brands. And if you don't have a very fresh package, it's difficult for the consumers to spot you among such a crowded juice beverages. And here I can show you one example. That is for these two juice beverages which have such similar packages, it's difficult for the consumers to distinguish one from another. So this means that the new brand may find it difficult to stand out on the shelf. So this may help explain that why these new the juice beverages have the growth rates lower than the beverage industry average. Over the past few years, something that we find it encouraging, that is that innovation of the high-end products may bring the higher net incremental growth. Because we can see that the high net incremental growth of the high-end product is 24%, but that for the mainstream product is only 15%. But over the past few years, we have seen that 54% of the high-end products are launched by the multinational companies. The so-called high-end products are the products with a price premium, and the 27% of the new products launched by the domestic vendors are the high-end products. But there's another interesting figure here I want to share with you. That is among the high-end products launched by the domestic companies, that their success rate is about 30% higher than that of the multinationals. Although that the absolute figure of the high-end products of the domestic companies is still lower than that of the multinationals. The reason is that most of the products launched by the domestic companies are the mainstream products. So when they launch the high-end products, they can easily stand out in the market. Here I would like to summarize the message I just shared with you. I think this is a very important topic that I may need to spend more time on it, but I'm not an expert on innovation. But I think that to achieve the higher incremental sales growth, we have to find the blank spots in the market. And we have to identify the core benefits of the consumers in order to drive growth. We also need to test the new products in the market in order to test whether the new products can contribute to higher net incremental sales growth. And also we need to do an exceptional job in meeting the core benefits of the consumers through our new products. In this way, we manage to exceed the expectation of the consumers. And also, in order to distinguish our brand or the products from the parent brand, then we have to identify the new consumers or new use occasions or new subsegments or new categories, or, for example, how we can raise its profit margin. Another thing is that we should know how to leverage the strengths of the parent brand in order to provide sufficient differentiation through our new product. So I think that for new products to achieve a higher net incremental sales growth, core benefits are critical. That is that the new products need to meet the core benefits of the consumers, and also the new products should be easily identified in the market. Next, I want to talk about newcomers, that how newcomers can create opportunities for the growth of the F&B industry. If we look at the contribution of the e-commerce to the FMCG sales, we can see that the emerging e-commerce channel takes only about 3% of the FMCG sales. And it's even lower share in the food segment, because a lot of the food segments, for example, the grocery, and they are not easily sold online because, for example, they are bigger in size and they are heavier. But if we look at the cargo over the 2013 and 2014, we can see that e-commerce has achieved 34%. This is explosive growth. And so, starting from 2012, we have seen the increasing number of households purchasing online, and also they have the higher online purchase frequency, and also they have they are higher the per household spend. And so basically we can see that e-commerce starts to grow in an exponential rate. There are a large number of the e-commerce sites. So here I would like to show you a few big e-commerce sites in order to see whether that we can identify some differences from these e-commerce stores. And so, for example, the Jingdong stands out in terms of the spend per purchase. And the number one store has the highest frequency of purchase because that is about the 8 purchase per year, and also the Amazon that is, for example, that 3 purchase frequency. So we can see that in terms of the purchase frequency, the number one store and Jingdong stand out. And also in terms of the unit price, Jingdong stand out because I think that the goods sold on Jingdong and cost more. And we also can see that top 3 product categories sold online, the milk powder, that is definitely the one among the 3 among all these e-commerce stores. If we study the Chinese consumers, we can see that over the past 11 years, there are a lot of changes among the Chinese consumers, in particular in the big cities. If they spend, for example, 100 yen on commerce, and the 55% of the 100 yen spent on the food and beverage in the big cities. So this is a piece of good news for the F&B companies. But if we go to the tier 2 or the tier 3 or even the lower tier cities, we can see that the spend on food and beverage becomes lower. But in the future, when the distribution channel and the delivery has become more pervasive in those low tier cities, and I think that the food and beverage sales online will take a bigger share. If we now look at the top 10 food and beverage categories sold online, we can look at this chart. As I mentioned, that food and beverage sold online take only the 3% of the total food and beverage sales. But still, that this is a low share. And so a lot of foods are still sold offline, that is in the supermarket and the convenience store and the grocery stores. But still, that we can see that as dog food and the cat food, that is the pet food, has seen the fastest growth in the online stores. And the cat food sold online has accounted for about 20%, and the cat food sold online has taken almost 16% of the total cat food sales. And so from these 2 sales, we can see that the consumers find it increasingly more comfortable to buy the pet food online. And this is also the case of the milk powder. So I believe that in the future, that for some of the food and beverage categories, the e-commerce stores will become more important. And generally speaking, I believe that e-commerce channel will become more important for the overall food and beverage industry. And e-commerce channels have been used by the F&B companies for other purposes. And for example, a lot of new products are distributed through the e-commerce channels for testing. And another thing we have noticed that as the case I mentioned that Maison that has launched a new product last year, and it's called Sui Yue. And so this is a new product of Maison. And actually that this product was first sold solely on JD.com. The sales volume was very low at the very beginning. Actually, that the product was sold on Jingdong. For the purpose of doing some testament, also found this new product in order to expand its sales through other channels.
Moreover, if you want to educate your consumers, you can also use the e-commerce channel. In particular, if you want to ask consumers to use new products, for example, P&G and Unilever are making full use of the e-commerce to introduce new product overseas to China. Sometimes they produce a video, sometimes they give very detailed description. This is a very new product, only for a niche market. But using the e-commerce channel, Ariel is able to know which consumers they are going to target. Well, that's towards the end of my presentation. I talked to you about 3 points. First, the market is slowing down, and market opportunities are becoming more and more valuable. Consumers are also changing. For example, lower-tier cities, digitalization, mobile, e-commerce, and the changing marketing strategies in China are all the new challenges we have to face. Second, in terms of innovation, we need to remember how are we going to meet the core interest, core demand of consumers? How are we going to set up our growth strategy to achieve incremental sales? And how are we going to differentiate ourselves from existing brands and existing products? The third part I talked to you about is e-commerce. E-commerce will be a major channel for FMCG. Food and beverage will be a major category for e-commerce. In Tier 1 cities, half of the consumption is on food and beverage. In the future, in Tier 2, Tier cities, the same trend will also take place. And companies can also use e-commerce channel to communicate with consumers to test a new product, so that your new product will have a higher chance of success. That's the end of my presentation. For Kantar panel, Worldpanel, we also have a WeChat account. If you're interested, please scan this QR code. You'll be able to receive the latest market updates and reports from Kantar Worldpanel. Thank you. Thank you very much.